You're watching Huffpost Live. I'm Ricky Camilleri. As a successful London stage actress, Julia Ormond rose to Hollywood fame as the love interest that tore a family apart in 1994's Legends of the Fall. These days, she's trying to keep a family of witches together as the matriarch in the Lifetime series, The Witches of East End. Let's take a look.
You have an enemy, Joanna. Somebody who wants to hurt you.
I had a dream about you. Your eyes were green. They were glowing because it wasn't you. It was a shifter, somebody doing evil in your name.
And they're not going to stop until you and your girls are dead.
I can't marry you.
You're not really immortal, are you, Joanna?
Whoa. And she joins me now, Julia Ormond. Hi, Julia.
Hi there.
Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So this show, I feel like there are so many supernatural shows right now, but this one is really witty. It's really funny, and the critics have recognized that as well. Did you want to be a part of this because of how funny it was going to be?
Definitely. When we shot the pilot, Mark Waters shot the pilot with us, and that was very meaningful to me that they had somebody really solid who could get the warmth of the show. And for me, I think what makes that difference is when you have the comedy and the humor, and it's slightly tongue-in-cheek, even though we take it seriously, because of course we have to take it seriously. There is an aspect of the show that I think protects the audience in terms of saying, whatever happens, however dark it gets, it's going to be okay, because it's also kind of silly.
You work with Madchen Amek in this, and she gets to be kind of the loose cannon a lot of the time, the wild card, if you will, to your straight woman. In the next season, are we going to get to see you loosen up a little bit, pop a few buttons?
Well, I don't know about the popping a few buttons, friend.
I did not mean that as any kind of innuendo, excuse me.
Well, I'll just fill you in. Just as you know, Madchen is naked a lot. That's, I think, what you were asking. No, we have a wonderful cast of beautiful women who are very happy in their bodies. And it's been an awesome learning experience for me. Joanna's still got a broomstick up her bum.
Yeah.
You know, let's hope we don't give that out or get that out in season 2. Maybe season, I don't know, 85, we'll loosen a few buttons. And up until then, you'll have to do with Jenna and Madchen and Rachel.
Your son returned, right, at the end of the first season. Are we going to see him playing a major role in this next one?
Yeah, it's a big part of the story is the return of Frederick, or Frederick coming to our realm. And what happens? Do they trust him? Is he trustworthy? And he's played fabulously by young actor Christian Cook. And then very exciting also is that Stephen Burkoff is joining the cast as the father, who scares the bejesus out of everybody. So he's good.
You have this incredible part on AMC's Mad Men as Marie Calvet. I think I might be pronouncing it. I'm probably mispronouncing it. Excuse me. Do you think that you would have done a show like Witches of East End if it wasn't for whatever experience you had on Mad Men?
I don't know. I guess I haven't really put the two together exactly like that. I've done a fair amount of TV. Maybe it's all the TV that I've done that you've missed. That is why I ended up doing Witches. You know, Witches to me appealed to me because it was these 4 women. She's basically a single mom. I'm a single mom. I was brought up by a single mom, and it was my mom and my sister, and I think that side of it, it's like the women and the family drama of it, and them always having each other's back that really attracted me. And again, the warmth and the tone of the show, which I think has settled down even more in season 2 in terms of finding its voice. And I think it takes time for these shows to sort of settle in sometimes.
I didn't miss a lot of the TV that you did. We saw Temple Grandin and your amazing performance on that show, as well as your part on Criminal Intent. You've been, and Nurse Jackie as well. I have the IMDb cranking in my head right now. I'm curious, but everyone loves this part on Mad Men. Were you, it's such a tight-knit cast. Everyone talks about how close this cast is. What was it like for you going in there, working with everyone day to day for the episodes that you were on?
It was an adult version of going to Disney because it was totally surreal to me. I did say to Matt Weiner at one point that a very committed relationship that I had actually came to an end and was finally over when he watched Mad Men episode without me. I was like, "You're toast. We're done." But Mad Men for me is to actually go and work on something that's one of your favorite shows was just surreal. It was like, that's really John Hamm, and I should have done it a bit higher. That's John Hamm, and and I got to work, with Roger. My character was with Roger, and there was some really just fun stuff, and it was a wonderfully written role that I probably one of the funnest roles that I've ever gotten to play.
Absolutely, and you mentioned your work with Roger. You have probably one of the most infamous scenes of the whole series with Roger. I'm not going to be as dirty right now to go into specifics, but what did you think when you first got that script and read for that scene?
At drama school, I learned that you should always look for scenes with a bit of meat in them. So that was perfect, and it was probably one of the more sex scenes can be incredibly awkward to do, and it was probably one of the more awkward sex scenes that I've ever done. And it only, sometimes you bail as an actor in terms of, I know what I really should do, and I just feel silly is ask for a banana, but because just having to do that in his lap and try and feel sexy was very weird. It was just very weird and very strange, and thank God he's got a sense of humor, and hopefully so do I, but it was one of the funnier sex scenes that I've ever kind of taken part in.
Now, you said that you've been doing a lot of TV. You called me out on my lack of TV knowledge, it seemed, which I'm okay with. I'm fine with. But I'm curious. So much was written about your sort of quick ascension to fame in the early '90s. Sort of that you were surrounded by some of the most powerful agents in Hollywood. There was this weird New York Times piece in 1995. It was called "The Conception, Production, and Distribution of Julia Ormond," and in it, David Blum wrote, Ormond confronts a completely different view by a Hollywood machinery now determined to make her a star. Today's big stars work movie to movie and they control their own careers. This means the stars have to hire agents, lawyers, and publicists to help make their way through the $5 billion industry Hollywood has become. I'm just reading that, I'm so curious what it was like for you to be treated as almost like a symbol of the changing Hollywood of that time, that now it's run by agents and publicists and this Julia Ormond who's doing incredible work, but we're just not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this other aspect and paint her to be a symbol.
It was kind of weird. I mean, I think what people kind of didn't realize was it was a little strange to cut your teeth and your first sort of a real interview was a cover story for the New York Times. And I think I guess I just wasn't really ready to do that interview, but things just happened very fast. And I think I learned probably by diving in the deep end as to how, especially on longer pieces, I think they look for controversy. And I think I was so early in my career, there wasn't really much of a story. So it was a little agenda driven. And then, of course, it's haunting. But it was just kind of like it was a messy, odd start.
Yeah. It's such a weird piece. When I read it, I was fascinated by it because it seemed to me partially kind of sexist in the way that it sort of didn't represent you well and didn't talk about your work. And I want to talk about the work on Legends of the Fall. This is a movie that I grew up with that my father made me watch all the time. And I'm so interested in this because watching this film, it feels like they were totally trying to set Brad Pitt up to be the next sort of sex pot, the next big male star. I mean, just like this, it's like it's like almost I can't believe it's not butter. They're setting him up for this like romantic Fabio figure. What was it like on set? Did you notice that? Was there sort of a clear positioning of him?
Yeah, Brad is one of those actors. He's a really good actor. He's very intuitive. He's like he always kind of reminded me on set of like a race horse that won't run. He stays in the box when the box is open to let everybody go on the racehorse. If it doesn't feel right to him, he's very intuitive. And he was fascinating to me how he's at heart, he's a character actor who doesn't want to do all the shirt. He's very resistant to that stuff. It'd be really kind of, but at the same time, got that that's what they wanted from him, or that was what was required. And for me, he was steeped in the work of delivering the character of Tristan, and kind of like that other stuff was kind of like flies buzzing around him in terms of slightly irritating, but he's also got enough smarts to know what he is and be very comfortable in that skin.
After Legends of the Fall, you went on to do Smilla's Sense of Snow and some other more independent-minded films with really strong female characters. Legends of the Fall, while a great movie, you are sort of at the whim of these men and there to sort of help them develop. Did you feel like you weren't getting the kind of characters, the kind of complexities that you wanted from female characters out of Hollywood, and you had to move to another platform?
I think I've been kind of slightly dubbed as a person who walked away from Hollywood, which sort of I didn't really do. I know that I think the way that a career goes, and you don't really control your career. A career is kind of like a wave that happens underneath you while you're surfing, and you either fall in or you don't, and then try and catch the next wave. But I know that having done Legends and First Night, I actually did a little BBC movie called Captives in between. I wanted to ring the changes and got offered these huge but somewhat risky European movies. And to me, it was just following the writing and following the stories that were rich and interesting to me. And I think it's hard. I mean, you do see young roles that are written for younger actresses. It's hard to make the ingenue role all that interesting if all the girl is the love interest. I think Susanna in Legends is much more interesting because she kind of is chameleonic in terms of when she's with Tristan, she's one woman, and then she goes on to the next brother, and she's a completely other woman, and then she goes on to the next. And that was the part of it that really fascinated me. And I think kind of women are kind of like that in that they don't really have their own identity. It's all about the man that they're with at the time. They're living through the guy, and that was what was so rootless about Susanna to me in Legends. Hollywood. But as I've gotten older and gotten to play roles as mothers or even step-grandmothers, I think the roles have become kind of more interesting.
As you said, as you have gotten older, you've aged beautifully and gracefully. I'm curious.
I'm so glad you're not here to see it in the flesh, but thank you.
Why would you slap me?
No, but you might not have said that.
Oh no, you're unbelievably beautiful, and I'm curious. It's said that it is difficult to age in Hollywood because of the pressures that are put on you. Have you ever felt those pressures, or do you just sort of do your own thing, go your own way?
No, I think it's really easy to age in Hollywood because there's lots of pollution, so that just kind of like brings it on in a really big way. There is this pressure, but I, to be honest, when I was trained at drama school, we were taught that we had you have an age range, and I have sort of fragile skin that I inherited from my mother. So when I was actually 25, people would say my range went actually from 16. My first role, I think, was an 18-year-old. But my range was sort of 16 probably to 30. And now that I'm nearly 50, my range, I think, is kind of in LA where everybody looks perfect. My role is maybe 45, maybe 49-ish. To 70. So I have this enormous range now, and I can play parts that other girls can't.
Absolutely. Julia, thanks so much for talking to me. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Pleasure to have you too. Well, not to have you, but to be here. Can I have you?
You
Did
can
you
have
feel
me.
Have?
As I said, you've aged gracefully and beautifully.
Then you'd have to be here. Okay.
Thanks, Julia. Check out Witches of East End. It airs Sunday nights on Lifetime. And stay here with us at Huffpost Live because the conversation always continues.